Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. I'm joined by Jay and Ronaldo, as always. A lot to talk about today, but the main topic is we need a bit of clarity on what's going on at Man United. There's too many facets of the club where everything is up in the air, whether that be the stadium, the ownership, how much it's going to cost to go to games, whether our academy players are being sold off or exiled, who's going to be playing for Manchester United. Just basically everything you can think of. You don't know where the future lies and what the future holds. Whether that's the new system, what striker we've got, where Garnacho is, where Rashford. Like, it feels like anything you look at, you go, oh yeah, it could be that, or it could be that. There's just no certainty at Man United at the minute. Let's go through this a little bit, sort of piece by piece. Let's start with Jim Ratcliffe and the ownership. Obviously, we saw last night some people expressing their dislike for some of the decisions that Ratcliffe's made to his face. Which obviously your opinions on that we'll get into, but that's where we are with the new ownership. It feels as though the stadium is one thing, the academy is another thing. Do you feel at the minute, Jay, that United are a little bit clueless as to where we're going, or do you feel like this is a kind of expected bit of a murky area while we try and sort things out?
I kind of expected it a little bit, because if you change everything, almost everything about the structure of the club in terms of the personnel, then it does leave you in a little, not in limbo, but you are going to have to wait until certain things sort of take effect, and there's going to be change, and there's going to be a little element of, questioning certain decision and doubt and worry, because we've changed. We've got a new CEO in, we've got a new director of football in, we've got a new manager in now, we've got new coaching staff. The entire coaching staff almost, I think, has been changed. See, I get all that. It's just the frustrating thing. I know you touched on it earlier with what's going on, is some of the decisions that have been made don't seem to be very logical and don't seem to be sort of helpful. And you go, okay, I understand why we're doing that, and for the greater good or whatever, it makes sense. But some of it feels a little bit, just for want of a better word, stupid. So that's a big concern of mine, is some of the cost-cutting exercise. I know we speak about it a lot on this channel, but I get you have to save money. And I always say, if you keep doing the same things off the pitch, you're going to get the same results on the pitch. I get you have to change things. But when it's like, we've cut the bonuses, the Christmas bonus from 100 quid to 40 quid Marks Spencer's.
You've got to ask yourself, how much does that really move the needle in it?
Yeah, it's like, come on, that is so minor. It's just ridiculous, and that's why I use the word stupid, because it is. From a PR perspective, it's horrible. And then you've got the whole £66 ticket thing, which I think the fans were calling out Jim Ratcliffe on. Again, people say, but it's only 3% of the tickets. Well, the flip side to that is, okay, how much is it generating then? Not that much for all the negative publicity you get, to the point where we was outside Old Trafford the other week, people protesting against it. And it's just like, that's my main concern. I don't mind that you spoke about the on-pitch stuff. Things are changing. There's a little bit of uncertainty. I get all that. The academy, I think it's doing quite well. To be frank, I know there's still some questions about what's happening with players moving on from the academy or whatever. But I think the academy's in decent shape. But in terms of the sort of the moves that we're making, and the fact that we seem to be skint, and I don't know the pathway to us being financially viable again, that's the biggest worry I've got.
Just on the transfers, Ronnie, we are 1 week from the transfer deadline shutting. It literally ends next Monday. I couldn't tell you whether we're going to have 0 deals, whether we're going to have like Garnacho, Rashford, maybe like a Casemiro, maybe might find a space for a Lindelof or someone, and then 3 or 4 come. There could be 7 deals between now and the end of the window. There could be none. Does it feel like United don't know what we're doing in the transfer window at the minute?
It does. It feels like a very reactive process from Ineos at the moment, which obviously it doesn't look favourable on them, obviously, as over how they're trying to operate. But for me, it's like January market is always a little bit of a difficult one to navigate, and I feel like United never have leverage anymore in the transfer window, because I think every club in the world knows how desperate we are. So that's never a good situation to be in. And it's also about having the finances, and we obviously found ourselves in a predicament where the only way that we can kind of begin this rebuild and get the 5, 6, 7, 8 players in the next couple of windows is if we sell basically academy assets like Garnacho and Mainu and not having them untouchable. So it's very difficult, especially when obviously you compound it with how we actually look on the pitch. it kind of makes us feel like this market is a little bit more important than it should be. Because from what we're seeing now with the way that the squad and the composition of the squad, it feels like if there isn't an addition or two before the window is over, it could be a very difficult rest of the season in what is basically a gauntlet now in the Premier League. It is. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's going to be 2-3 deals or whether it'll just end up staying the same, because unfortunately we have, other than Garnacho it seems, we have assets that we are willing to sell that people don't want, so they're not very valuable. So it's just a lot of problems. I feel like the fans would be a lot less. I think fans would always tolerate a little bit more off the pitch if on the pitch is doing okay. When you've got both going wrong, it's a nightmare scenario.
With Garnacho, Jay.
Yeah.
Sky Sports did a report the other day saying that if we were to sell him for £60 million, that would bring us somewhere in the region of £180 million worth of spending power in the market.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think a lot of people know this, but just to give this sort of the background on that, if you sell a player for 60 million, you can put that on this year's books, £60 million profit. Immediately, that takes away 60 million quid's worth of sort of debts. However, if you buy someone for £60 million, you can spread that purchase over a portion of their contract, let's say 4 or 5 years, so that would only amount to £12 million a year plus their wages that year. So you can spend basically far more than you sell, assuming that those sales are profit. So Garnacho, 60 million in, would equate to roughly £180 million worth of spending power.
Me and you did I think a keep or sell video or whatever it was, and we got to Garnacho and we were debating for a while, weren't we, about him, because it was like, look, is that the one tough decision that you have to make with someone? Because as Ronnie just said, there isn't that many sellable assets we've got where you can make a big chunk of profit if you're going to talk about players in that way. Like, you're not going to get massive money if you were to sell, I don't know, Casemiro, yeah, good shout, Casemiro, something like that. It's not going to happen, is it? So whereas Garnacho's the one you think, actually, you could get money for him. If push came to shove, I'd probably rather we kept him, but if that is the difference between us being, able to buy the players we need in other areas and strengthening on the whole as a squad, I get it. I understand that. My main worry is, will we be savvy in the transfer market? Do we end up with... Because this could be a Philippe Coutinho situation where a player that most Liverpool fans didn't want to leave. They didn't want him to leave. He left for, I think, 145 million quid for Barcelona, and that helped to fund, which is still one of the most insane transfers ever, especially when didn't end up playing against him and knocking him out of the Champions League. When they brought in the likes of Mo Salah and Robertson and Van Dijk, whoever, if it helps us fund like 3 or 4 players, then you can look back and go, okay, it was worth it. But my worry is, will it? Do we have faith in Ineos getting things right in the transfer market? The last transfer window was much better, than, if we're being honest. I think most of the players we brought in, you look at Mazraoui, you look at De Ligt, you look at Yoro, you look at Ugarte. Zirkzee, I know he's had a difficult time of it, but he's the only one out of the ones we brought in where you go, not been a great signing. Or not been, there's still a lot of question marks there. If we can have, good investment or reinvestment with that money, then it could be positive. But for me, I remember watching Garnacho when he burst, not even when he burst into the first team, just watching him in the academy, watching him in that FA Youth Cup final, seeing him when he was coming off the bench and just terrorising Manchester City and getting important goals. And it just pains me, the idea of selling him like less than 18 months later. It
is harsh, isn't it? And we talk a lot about the state of PSR that it emphasises and almost necessitates the selling of academy players. But I do think that, like you said, if it can be a Coutinho moment, and then do we have the faith that Ineos will spend the money properly? But the problem is, maybe they won't spend the money properly. But wherever the next 150 million comes from for them to spend, if they spend it badly, even if we kept Garnacho, we're still fucked. Like, Ineos's inability to spend money will cost us season in, season out if that's an issue they have. We can't never take a risk just because they might waste it. Yeah. Because let's say we keep Garnacho and somehow we muster up 200 million. If they waste it, Garnacho ain't going to be enough to win us the league anyway. Yeah. Like, we have to at some point trust the owners are going to make some good decisions in the transfer market. Because if they don't, you can sell or keep anyone. We're still screwed.
It's literally, I agree. It's literally damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because it's a gamble either way. We could sell Garnacho and he could go on to become like a bordering world-class player somewhere else, whether it's Chelsea, Napoli, and then we don't actually improve or spend the money wrongly and we look worse off for it. Or you could end up keeping Garnacho and we still stay as bad as we are. We don't have the money to get better players, and Garnacho doesn't really kick on and take the next steps anyway. So it's literally a choice of what risk you take. Do you take the risk keeping him with a young budding player that you feel like has a certain amount of potential, or do you bite the bullet and sell him and then reinvest into a manager that's got a new system that clearly needs players, and it's just a team in general that needs a lot of players added to it? Because for me, I just find it astonishing how United are able to spend so much money in summer windows and sign so many players and still at the end of it look like there's still a lot missing. I feel like we're the best team in the world at doing that.
Yeah, and we need to spend wisely regardless of what happens with Garnacho, and he's like the symbol of it at the moment. But if Ineos waste money, they waste money. Garnacho's future
that's a fair point. And
problem.
Mark Critchley said the other day, and he said United need to stop or start trying to buy sort of more players for that middle of the range price as well. He said, United are terrible at that. How many players do we buy for like 20, 30, 40 million or whatever? It's that works. It's not a lot. Most of our, I know, like we have more recently done that, but he mentioned like Diallo and Dallo and players like that who were around that price range. Yep. But we spend like 60 million, 70 million, 80 million.
I think last year was like 12 million. And you could see that you've seen since he's been here, and even now he's never really been at the level.
No, that's not.
Sandro Martinez was 45.
I mean,
this is a good thing though. That's something that we have.
Even that's not too bad.
Because De Ligt and Mazraoui, weren't they 45 million between them, or 50 million, 60 million maybe between them, something like that.
I think that's more like things like that makes sense. Yeah. So if you got, say, you were able to spend 180 million, rather than going out and buying 2 players, which is the kind of what we've done in the past, where you go, let's spend 80 million on this one and 70 on this one, and oh shit, they've not worked out, and now, you know what I mean, we're going to have to sell them for a loss, or not a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we actually said, okay, let's aim for the sort of the 30, 40, 50, even 50 million price tag, then maybe you can get decent players. And obviously you've still got to do scouting and due diligence, but how many players have you looked at, Ronnie, that you've said can do a job for Manchester United that are in that price range?
There's loads.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's just, do you think sometimes with big clubs, because we still are, there's a lot more scrutiny and pressure on taking risks on those players that cost that much. I get that. Whereas the lesser clubs in the league are able to take that gamble, and obviously occasionally it works. When it works, that's when you hear all about it. If it doesn't work, when you buy a player for like 10, 15 million, nobody cares. So I get the 10, 15, but even if it's a little bit more. But let's say you bought like 4 or 5, like even this summer's a good example, because this summer was a bit closer to that kind of idea, wasn't it?
Well, De Ligt was a starting fee of 38 million, going up to potentially 43.
Right, so De Ligt's, let's say 40 million.
Yeah.
Mazraoui, what?
I think like 18 going up to 20
million.
Yeah.
Ugarte, what was he?
50.
That's a bit more, that's the top end of that.
Yeah.
Yoro was, I think he was probably the one that's broke that mould. And then you have Xerxes was like 42, I think. Yeah. So there's only
that was a steep spend, Lenny, but you're paying for it. He's a
and he's an 18-year-old potential, 15-year career type player. There's only Xerxes that's beginning to look like someone who's not going to work out. Yeah. I know it's only early days, but let's be honest,
he wasn't crazy expensive for what you get for structure.
And it's like, that's, a host of players. You think, okay, at least 4 of them look like they're going to do a job for Manchester United. Yeah. So if you can do that kind of thing, it's great. It's when you're going out and you're spending 150 million on 2 players.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's when we bought, the prime example is deadline day almost, wasn't it? Casemiro and Antony for 150 mil or whatever it was. That's the kind of gamble where it has to pay off, and if it doesn't, which neither of those 2 really did, then you're in trouble if you're trying to stick to PSR nowadays.
Do you think the financial constraints now at United might actually incentivise us to kind of be that way inclined in the market, though, in terms of going for the cheaper buyers, almost not even necessarily because United want to, but because they almost have to?
I hope so. I think you're right. I think the days of us going out and spending 80 odd million on someone who's had 2 good seasons in their career probably over. Well, for the time being, I think it's now at a stage where we are going to have to think a little bit differently. I don't think Ineos are going to sanction those big signings, because we've made a lot of big signings at United, haven't we? And this is the thing, like, people always say, oh, United won't be able to get him. United won't be... Well, there was a time when we basically got almost everyone we went for. I mean, I know you can argue that we didn't go for some of the players we went for weren't that good enough, but Lukaku, Pogba, Maguire, Di Maria, big signings, big money signings, like, and these are like, well, we wanted him and we got him. We overpaid for practically all of them, but we got him. And I think now we're going to have to think a little bit differently in some of the players, maybe not the 15, 20 million Malacia ones, but a little bit more than that, closer to the ones we bought in the summer.
Because, for example, we're after Patrick Dorgu, as everyone knows, and obviously, is it Lecce? They're holding out for a certain value that I don't feel like they would have held out for at a club that wasn't Manchester United. That's genuinely my belief. I still think there's an element of United tax when it comes to the transfer
What are they
window.
asking for him, do you know?
I think it's 40 million euros, so that's probably around 32, 33 million pounds-ish. And my belief is, if it was like a West Ham or maybe even like a Spurs, or if I look into like the Italian league and you may be looking at an AC Milan or Roma, I think they'd be able to get him for less than what United are going to be able to get him for, and that's the only thing that's quite annoying. But that's something that's going to have to take a few windows for us to change.
You always say it. You always say it about, use the Maguire example, and even Anna, if you didn't pay 80 million, if you paid 40 or 50 million, no, 50 million's a bit, but if you paid 40 million, no one would care the way they do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like someone made a point.
I get what you're
comments.
saying, Ronnie, about the United tax, by the way.
Because the market, I do think we are seeing the market slowing down a little bit in terms of the usual inflation that you see with prices. I think the transfer market is slowly trying to be normalised to an extent. I feel like, I don't know if that's because of PSR and FFP that's happening, whether clubs are just trying to be a little bit smarter. Because all it does is it takes one signing to kind of ruin that. Because we're complaining about how much strikers and wingers cost, when realistically, I think United buying Anthony for 100 million euros. I think that was one of the biggest reasons for the market kind of rising a little bit in terms of strikers and wingers, because apparently that's the reason why Mudryk costs so much. Chelsea went in for Mudryk for actually a lesser fee than they signed him for, and shout to the next, and their CEO was like, I think Mudryk's better than Anthony, so Anthony should be around the same. And that's usually how, and then obviously then Mudryk gets paid for that much, and then everyone's like, every club then is, my winger that you're trying to buy is better than him, so you're gonna have to pay around the same as him.
You're right, by the way, on the on transfer fees, and I think more money gets spent on transfers now because teams have more money. But that record top end, I was speaking to Kieran Maguire about this the other week, and you look at the most expensive players ever. You've got Neymar to PSG, 220 million euros. Mbappe to PSG, 180 million. Coutinho, 135 million. Dembele, 135. João Felix. Enzo Fernandez to Chelsea, 120. This is the top 10. Hazard to Madrid. Griezmann to Barca. Grealish to City. And Ronaldo to Juventus. 8 out of those 10 transfers were pre-COVID. So, like, you look at the numbers, there has been a decline in that real top end of deals.
Recently.
And none of the top 5 have been post-COVID either. So, like, we're not seeing that kind of exponential growth. There was a time I remember when I think Zidane had the record for most expensive player for like 5 years. In the late 2000s, when he went to Real Madrid, it was like 45 million, and then that wasn't broken for like 5 or 6 years. We're almost in that spell now. I don't see anyone breaking that Neymar fee for a long time. I can't imagine someone being £200 million on a player for who would that even be? I can't imagine that happening.
Lamine Yamal.
Maybe, but even then, he's not as good as Neymar.
I'm thinking more like, which club would it be? Maybe.
Well,
The thing is, maybe like a Vinny, and maybe they have that value now. But what we talk, I think in recent years though, you've seen Caicedo and Declan Rice kind of breach that £100 million mark. So I guess they're still
Enzo Fernandez
and Enzo Fernandez. They're a couple of outliers there still. But I do think that it will slightly try to come down, because it started to get a little bit silly with those fees. And I think Cavara from Napoli to PSG for, was it around 58 million or whatever it was?
I think it was like 70 million euros, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 58 million. I think that's that's the sort of deal that might actually help
70 million euros.
That might to help bring the market down, because realistically, I think if that was around for the level of player he is, because he's a world-class left winger, he probably could have gone for a lot more than that, couldn't he?
Yeah,
So-
there was a spell where that was just the standard. I think the other thing that's happened is people realise spending a lot of money is no guarantee that these players will be a success.
These
These are the top 10 most expensive Premier League transfers. Let's just say yes or no, were they worth the money? Not, were they amazing, were they good, were they all right? Were they worth being? And all of these, I can tell you, are 85 million euros plus.
Right.
Enzo to Chelsea, no.
Not for me.
Jack Grealish to City, no.
Not for me.
Rice to Arsenal, maybe. It's maybe 100 million quid. Was he worth it? Ish, yeah. We'll say
He's been good there.
Yeah.
But
Caicedo to Chelsea, no.
He's
doing all right, but not
he's probably
overall.
one of the best midfielders this season. He's tailed off a little bit recently.
Yeah,
but 100 million is still a bit steep. I don't think a midfielder should cost that much anyway.
No. Lukaku to Chelsea in 21-22, absolutely not. Pogba to United, no.
Nah,
probably not.
Not really.
Anthony to United, no.
Absolutely not.
Guardiola to City, maybe, yeah, probably just about. He's been good, yeah.
He's a left back, centre half. That's not very good at defending, but amazing going forward.
After that FA Cup final, 100%.
Yeah. Harry
We
Maguire.
helped us win it.
That's what I mean.
Have you ever seen a player?
That's what I was getting
I don't
at.
think on Gavardio. Have you ever seen a weirder player than that? I don't understand.
No.
Like
He's
like
a sort of centre back who's been forced to play left back, who's unreal in front of goal.
Yeah.
I don't.
What?
And has one in him.
And he's like 2-footed. He's like 2-footed dribbler, ball strike. He's like I don't know what type of player he is, and then he has like a clanger, and then next minute he's like the best player on the pitch in like a big game. Unbelievable, just running past everyone. He's weird, the weirdest footballer.
He is strange.
And the other two on that list
Be
are
careful as well taking a mick out of him for the FA Cup final, because he's liable to absolutely destroy us next time we
he is.
play.
Maguire to United, probably not worth 80 million, and Darwin Núñez to Liverpool, probably not worth 80 odd million as well. That's the top 10. Just after that, it's Sancho and Lukaku, and then you're looking at Van Dijk, who's a success. Your mate Wesley Fofana, who is so sort of non-existent. People don't even know that he went to Chelsea for 80 million euros. Like when we talk about the record worst signings in the Premier League history, people don't even know Wesley Fofana went from Leicester to Chelsea for 80 million euros. It doesn't cross their mind as being on the radar of worst signings. That's how sort of poor that's been. Like you go through that list and 3 of the top 15 have been a success. Like there's no point in spending 90 million quid because it doesn't guarantee you anything.
No,
like you might as well spend 50, 60, because then at least if they're shit, you get 85% of it back.
It's changed massive, hasn't it? There was a time years ago where you could almost guarantee if you spent a certain amount of money, you would get in a player that would work for you, that would be a success. And I think those days are long gone. And when you look at, it's not even that some players like Pogba, for example, there's a debate there to be had around him. Do you know what I mean? Yes, we overpaid for him, but like, was he a complete and utter failure at Manchester United? No. There's times when Paul Pogba was the best player on the pitch for Manchester United. Probably didn't achieve what he should have achieved, all the rest of it. But you can understand it, you can see it. But like some players, like 80 million on Mudryk, 80 million on Antony. And there's been times when they've looked like they're not Premier League standard.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like to spend that amount of money and not even be guaranteed someone who's good enough to play in the Premier League is nuts.
You could put Mudryk in Southampton's team, and I don't think they get any better.
No.
And he cost 80 million. And you can maybe say the same about Antony. Obviously, I think at least he's played for United. It feels like Mudryk is just all he's ever been is the odd 20-minute appearance here and there. It's just crazy.
Now he's got a drug ban and stuff like that just add to it.
Yeah,
it is crazy because how that stuff can happen. Because then you even got like Sandro Tonali goes to Newcastle for like 70 million, and then doesn't even play the whole first season because of the gambling issue.
Yeah, I mean, it looks decent
crazy.
now, but
he's been good.
He's had a year to sort of think about it. Yeah. Before we carry on, Jay, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Manscaped.
Yes.
Okay. Because it's coming to that time. Do you know what? I've got a little fact for you.
Go on. I love facts, mate.
Do you know that I'm not a big fan of winter?
You're not?
No, I don't like the dark nights. I don't like the cold. I don't like all that. Right. We've successfully navigated the 10 darkest weeks of the year.
Really?
So it's all getting brighter from here on, baby. And as soon as it does, what do you need to be in pristine condition?
Balls.
And your beard. Yeah, you don't want that being dark and weak.
No, you
don't.
Know
What I mean? Well, it can be dark, just not weak.
Yeah,
it's got to be strong. And thankfully, Manscaped have got you covered with the beard and balls bundle. Now, I know what you're going to say, Jay.
What?
What goes on down there? I'll tell you, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, that's what goes on down there. It is the leading instrument in below the waist grooming.
And it is an instrument.
It is an instrument.
Because, although it doesn't take a long time to master.
No, it does.
Even I don't want to say a child, that's poor terminology. Even a novice.
Even a novice can master this instrument, yeah? Trust me. Plus you've got the beard hedger, which has the 20 length option, so you can have a beard like Ronnie's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very nice. You can have one like I was going to call you George then, but your name's Joe. Yeah. You can have one like George or Joe, as some people like to call him, which is basically everyone who knows him. Or you can have one like mine, which is more, so, how would you get it? You click on the link in description, you use the code Paddock24, you get 20% off and free shipping. Not only as you've got the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra that's got all that great stuff and the beard hedger, you've also got, as part of that, you've got the titanium coated stainless steel T-blade. That is part of the beard hedger, yeah? And don't forget, as the lawnmower, part of the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, you've got the two interchangeable skin-safe blades. So, I mean, even if you don't use it, I just like to look at mine and stare at it for hours.
Yeah, I mean, if anything's coated in titanium, it's better. That's just a fact. I'd eat scrambled eggs coated in titanium. Do you know what I mean? It's the coolest metal, isn't it? Except maybe dead metal from Robot Wars. But just check them out. 20% off and free shipping using the code Paddock24. Your balls will thank you. Thank you to people in the comments and your super chats. Let me go through some of these. James Barry says, Jay, how are your share prices in United? Jay can just check that now while we read Mr. Arnold's. Do you want to check your price?
They've gone.
What? You've sold up?
Got rid.
No, you didn't.
Got rid of him. Put it into crypto.
What?
Yeah.
What? So how much? You bought them for 20 quid?
Yeah.
What did you sell for?
Kept about 14 quid.
Yeah.
I was just bored one day and just thought, what's this crypto going on around?
That was an ongoing feature on this channel.
Well, I'll buy him back.
Don't buy him back now. You are literally the epitome of buy high, sell low, aren't you? What crypto have you bought anyway? Musk.
I don't know. I mean...
What do you mean you don't know? Crypto, please. Hello, can I have one crypto?
Yeah, can I have a crypto, please?
What is it?
I don't know what advertise this, by the way.
Let's see. Musk coin.
Like, to be fair, you aren't doing a good job of advertising.
No, I'm not.
No one is watching this and going, oh, let's copy Jay.
Yeah.
You
hang on a
absolute
minute.
Trump coin.
I know, sorry.
You can't even find it.
I'm trying to find it, right.
He don't even know what he's bought. He can't find it. I can see the words $11.78 on there.
See,
so it's gone down even worse.
It's crashed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's ton. It says ton coin experimental. There you go. But it's not making any dough.
Let's see.
Yeah.
You've lost 8% on it.
Yeah. So that's not good apparently.
You could just wait for it to hopefully go the other way.
Yeah, so when it goes back up to 12.
Yeah, so if anyone's buying puts, buy it in whatever Jay's buying. Because if he buys it, it's guaranteed to go down.
I didn't want to be part of the problem at United.
No.
And I felt like that as a shareholder.
Yeah, as a shareholder, people were coming up to your car, weren't they?
He's 66 quid a ticket, you don't have ordered Motors Edge, you bellend.
Mr. Arnold says, to all those liberal fans that didn't want Qatar,
Jesus.
How are you all feeling seeing this financial mess our great is in? I guess he means great club. Yeah, I mean, I wish the person who couldn't even be asked putting a bid in for Man United had come in and theoretically got rid of all the debts. I mean,
if you're going to wish for something, right, why don't we wish for something else?
What?
Like, we're wishing for... people that wish for Sheikh Jassim, I wish Sheikh Jassim took over, right? So I wish someone that didn't have the money, had the money, was real, and bought Manchester United. So why don't we wish for someone else? Why don't we Santa Claus bought United?
What?
Like, why are we wishing for Sheikh Jassim? Because he didn't buy United, because he didn't have the money, and even if he did, he wouldn't spend it on United. Do you know what I mean? It's just why don't we just wish that all the fans got together and bought Manchester United? Like, that'd be a better wish.
I love when people say, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and I'd bet on the winners of the FA Cup in 1999. Yeah. And then you think, well, if we're just inventing situations, instead of wishing you had a time machine, why don't you just wish you had £1 billion? Cut out like 3 different middlemen. Yeah. Instead of wishing that Sheikh Jassim was here and making Man United perfect, why don't you wish that he fucking put a bid in? Yeah. Because he didn't. So it's all...
And also, like, exactly. Why don't we just wish that fucking... I don't know. I was going to say that we never sold it. Well, why wish we never sold it to Glaze in the first place if we're going to wish for something?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? That'd have been that'd probably be better. So, listen, I get people are annoyed with Ratcliffe. I'm not sticking up for him, but
no, there's nothing.
I think the whole like, oh, if only Sheikh Jassim, and oh, you lot didn't want Sheikh Jassim. But he could have bought United, couldn't he? But he chose not to, or he didn't have the money to.
Yeah, do you know what?
So maybe he couldn't. I don't know.
Do you know what happened? That we saw the video with Jim Ratcliffe and the criticism that they've come under. They've not been doing great when it comes to PR, especially with some of the cost cutting measures. I feel like we have a relative understanding of the fact that some of it probably is necessary in terms of what the Glazers have caused in terms of debt and our financial situation, but some of it does look like how much does that actually help when it's stuff like cutting the Christmas due for staff or the ticket prices. What did you say? Raising it to £66. It's only 3% of the
overall tickets.
Yeah, that was like the kind of argument which to me made less sense anyway.
Do you think, at the same time, do you think, obviously with the Glazers still theoretically being there, it's not even theoretical, they are there, do you think Ineos are a little bit of a shield now for him? Because some people, some people are arguing that Ineos are almost used as like the blaming shield for the problems that they're trying to fix that the Glazers caused.
Well, if you look at Man United, the situation that Ineos found themselves in when they took over the club, whether you like how they've tried to fix that situation or not, the situation that they inherited was a shit show, on and off the pitch. Massive debts, we owed loads of money, we have a failing team, we have a culture of it being okay when you fail. That is not a good place to be buying the biggest, most scrutinised club in the world, or certainly in England. So however they've gone about it, that's a separate thing and we can criticise them for it. But the fact that they had to do some difficult things isn't just their own fault. What they've done is like I said, we can take it on a case-by-case basis, which we have done many times on the channel. But they inherited an absolute shit show of a football team. No one can deny that, and that is the Glazers' fault, 100%. Personally,
Glazers and the people that they employed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Liam Pickering says, "Isn't Sir Jim rich AF? Why are we selling Garnacho?" Well, many reasons. Firstly, we're not necessarily selling Garnacho, and if they do, that is up to them how they want to raise the funds. It doesn't matter how rich your owners are; they can't just give you endless transfer cash. Yeah. That's why Man City have got 130 charges hanging over their head because of inflated fees paid to their own club by themselves, theoretically or allegedly. You can't just go, here's my personal wallet, please can I have your Mbappe? It has to be Man United's money that they spend. And there are ways of inflating how much Man United spend using your owner's cash, but if you get that slightly wrong, like I said with Man City, you end up risking losing 60 points and being relegated. So that's why it doesn't necessarily matter how rich your owners are.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's annoying because now we actually have owners that have dough, or an owner that has dough, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and he has put over 200 million of his own cash in, but it can't just go on to buying players, unfortunately. And also, maybe he doesn't want to spend all his money on players, even if he could. Akash K says, Joey's right, uncertainty remains. No mention of the club's debt either. Fans are questioning why they have to cover the cost for how much money has been wasted by Man United. Your debt, not ours. And that is a good point. The debt side of things, that is something that Ratcliffe could wipe off if he wanted to. But, that's one where you just have to accept that that's not what they're doing. And maybe if we had unlimited wealth, he could just go, right, that transfer debt, we're going to pay that off up front. That debt that we owe to the banks, we're going to pay that off up front. That would be good. I would like it if they did that, and they're not doing that. So maybe that is a little bit of a shame, yeah. Peppered Lemon says, what do we make of the recent revelation that Gary Neville doesn't like pesto? What are your thoughts on pesto?
Not a big fan. Pesto.
You know,
I think pesto pasta's really nice.
do you like red pesto or green pesto?
Green.
Green.
No. I don't really. My oldest eats it.
Have you ever had it?
It's none of your business.
Code for I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Ask me another. I know I should know whether I've ate something or not. I can't recall. I don't think I have.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
I think you'd like it, Jay.
He eats celery for lunch. Jay now, so that's why.
Nah, it wasn't. It was actually cucumber.
What was it?
I think you might have asked me, is it celery? I think I might have just said yes, but I was wrong.
And a banana. And a banana that you very much enjoyed.
Interesting that. I didn't even chew it.
Didn't chew it at all.
Connor,
he didn't.
Connor O'Donoghue
Grass
says, Can you bring on a PSR expert to explain the rules in depth? Hearing that the Glazers' debt financially greatly goes against our ability to buy. Criminal if so. Well, we've spoken to Kieran Maguire, who is pretty close to a PSR expert.
Of football.
And I spoke about this with him the last time he was on, so check out that video. We talked about why we have to sell academy players, how much debt United are in, how that affects us, and obviously we spoke about other things as well, but a lot of what you're asking there was covered in that. So go and check that out. It's about 10 days ago or so that we had him on, which was very, very good.
He got a lot of stick off a lot of people, didn't he, Kieran?
Go on.
For basically comparing Ratcliffe to the Glazers.
Yeah.
A lot of people weren't happy, and now everyone's saying it.
Yeah.
Now people are literally stopping Sir Jim Ratcliffe in car parks and saying you're worse than the Glazers or you're as bad as the Glazers. Yeah. And that's he didn't say it quite like, but he was like alluding to that, like, look, what he's doing at the minute is.
And you know, stuff like that with the ticket,
as bad as them, what?
With raising the ticket costs, those cost cutting measures, and all those financial side of things. How involved in that decision making is Jim Ratcliffe? Yeah. Surely, when you're an owner and you're that wealthy, just a lot of those decisions are probably delegated, aren't they?
Probably.
But he's just kind of got to be the face of it.
Yeah, and yeah. Liam makes the point here as well. He said if Ratcliffe cleared the debt, he'd have no power to stop the Glazers saddling the club with new debt. Saying Ratcliffe should clear the debt is nonsensical. I mean, obviously, maybe there could be legal agreements put in place, but that is a good point. The Glazers still own Manchester United. They own more than Jim Ratcliffe does. If let's say he dips into his pocket and pays off 1.1 billion quid's worth of debt.
They paid off Glazers' debt for him. Happy days.
They're paying off the Glazers' debt for him without owning any more of Man United. They could just get more loans out.
Look, we all love Manchester United, don't we, right? We all, obviously love it. If we were all like the richest men in the world or whatever, or in Britain, would we want to pay off the Glazers' debts for him?
Yeah, no.
I wouldn't.
Sometimes it's easy just to make those kind of basic blanket statements, like, why can't Jim Ratcliffe just pay off the debt? But realistically, we don't fully know like the ins and outs and how business works, and those are business decisions that, well, I'm not privy to and I don't understand majorly well, but it just doesn't seem logical for Jim Ratcliffe to do that. Yeah. But I feel like
especially while he doesn't own all of Man United either.
Yeah, exactly. It would be quite.
I think there might be a situation where the Glazers eventually get bought out, and then we might see proper, real positive change. Yeah, and I think that might not be as far away as people fear.
I think they obviously are struggling to let go in it. I think Glazers continually still want to, in some way, milk United for as much as they can while they can.
It just needs to get to the point for them where they'll make more money by selling than by hanging on.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why they've gone because they still want to make more money from United.
If they get to a point where they go, okay, if we sell and we all end up walking away with £1 billion each, so let's just say, for example, that's more than we'll make if we hung on for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and if in the meantime we can get a new stadium, we can revamp the squad, we can rework how we bring in players and sell players and start making more profit in the transfer market and just spend pretty big anyway, get back in the Champions League and make the extra tens of millions of pounds that comes with that, start challenging in the Premier League and get the extra millions of pounds that comes with that. We don't necessarily, need it. We can still be a success while the Glazers are in the background, and then we can buy them out, hopefully, somewhere down the line. Florian Plettenberg has tweeted a couple of minutes ago, Ruben Amorim is pushing hard to sign Patrick Dorgu before the end of this winter transfer window. The 20-year-old left-back from Lecce or Lisi is currently Amorim's desired target. He has made that clear in recent days. If a move for Dorgu falls through, and I wanted to talk about this, Manchester United are seriously considering activating the buyback option to bring Alvaro Fernandez back.
That's in the summer, though.
There's a few people who have spoken about this, and do you like that, Jay? Does that worry you?
I don't, right. I'm one of the few people who doesn't know enough about him. I've seen him recently, and he looks decent, but I don't know if he's quite a player that we all hope he is. I think there's a big narrative building into we're that much of a shambles that we should never let him go, and this sums up we need to get him back. I don't know if it's quite true. I don't know. I mean, he looks decent from what I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like it's decent, but I think it's just out of the fact we need a left wing back that desperately. Yeah. And it's just kind of having a little bit of frustration of feeling like he had one there already that you've sold. And for me, I won't be totally against it, but I'm not as for it as people are making out. I think he's done well in the Champions League, so that goes for him. But sometimes you look at the Portuguese league, he's playing for one of the better teams. From what I hear, he does defensively have lapses, and he's at Benfica progressing and thriving. I just worry about him then coming back people have these whole shiny new toy lofty expectations that this fan base is very prone to having, and then he doesn't quite meet those expectations, and then it's just like it's a whole flip then. Because for him, he's got to think about it as well. If I'm Alvaro Fernandez, I've got to think, I'm in Portugal, starting week in, week out at left back for a Champions League team that's perennial title challengers in Portugal, in nice weather, where I'm respected and valued and adored by the fans. Am I really going to go back to that absolute mess that's happening at United?
You've also got to think as well, because when we look at outside factors that can change the narrative around a transfer, and we mentioned the wages or the fee or whatever that someone has, that deal will be so heavily scrutinised because of the fact we've let him go once and we've bought him back. So if that doesn't work out, or he's on the bench, or it's not quite right, he will get absolutely destroyed, and he will be a reason, maybe even why the manager gets sort of nudged toward the door or whatever. Like, that's such a precarious, politically charged thing to do. Bring him back when we've just let him go. We have to be so certain that will work.
Yeah,
because otherwise it's going to be like, we just let him go and then we brought him back and then he's not even playing and he's not good enough, and like how much, we've literally just burnt 16 million quid for a player that's not good enough. That will look terrible, absolutely terrible. So I think if they do it, they have to make sure it's right. And I know you can't make sure of anything in football, but they have to be not just getting him because he's cheap. It would really hurt United to do a deal like that and get it wrong. Let's talk about Wally of the week then. Who's been an absolute Wally this week, Ronaldo? I'll start with you.
I could easily say the usual, which is not the usual, but Michael Oliver for his decision. Because in theory, as much as I hate Arsenal, I feel like Arsenal are the only saving grace in terms of stopping Liverpool winning the league. I don't know whether they'll actually do it, but I think Michael Oliver is kind of the signifier for how poor refereeing is in this country and how bad I think how bad it is, the whole refereeing institution. I always say, is it PG MOL? And I think there's some serious, I don't know if it's corruption or whether referees in this country are just bad at their job.
Yeah, it's bad, isn't it? The Arsenal one is bad. It's just not a red card at all, is it?
It's just, he gets away with it, doesn't he, Oliver?
Shocking.
Just does these stupid decisions and like, it'll still be...
You can't go over the low one, innit?
No, it rattled me that. It did. Because he seen his arse, didn't he? He did. He snapped. Oliver snapped. As a referee, he spat his dumb out and like, what? Talk to me like you can have another one. And that was so unprofessional. Like, and then he wasn't like downgraded or punished or reprimanded over it. He was just carry on regardless and still has his reputation of being the best referee in the country. And he's just not. He's not. He's a proper little egotistical twerp.
Yeah. Who's your one of the week?
I know it's not exactly original, but I'm just going to go with Adama Traore.
I was just going to say him. Go on, talk to me.
He just does me head in. He's such a knobhead. Like, the whole, this little spat he's had with Martinez, right, where it was like, Martinez said he'll, send him back to the gym or whatever it was last season. So Adama Traore posted on Instagram, we'll meet again soon. Martinez scores a winner, gets player of the match yesterday, and Adama Traore posted a picture on his socials of, Martinez on the floor and him running off, like he'd won. I thought, have some fucking shame.
Yeah, come on. Mr. fucking 3 goals, 1 assist a season.
Yeah.
Come off.
Do you know
come off it.
You know what's mad?
Some shame.
Yeah.
Adama's weird because he does get kind of he's the brunt of a lot of jokes and he gets criticised a lot for his end products and stuff. But I think fans do that, but then whenever he comes on the pitch or he's on the pitch against your team, you are scared.
Yeah. Do you
know what I mean? He feels like he is a threat though. Because he come on yesterday and I can't pretend that he came on and played shit. I thought he came on and he was a bit of an issue. Do you know what I mean?
He's always got that ability to carry the ball into dangerous areas, but it's what he does when he gets there. Yeah. 99 times out of 100, literally, he does fuck all with it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think was one time he found Muniz. And then Muniz hit the volley aside, and then he put his one. I just thought the whole Martinez Adama Traore kind of beef. I think it was good. It was a good watch. I think it's funny. Yeah. I think there was more of that. I wish there was more of that type of.
I don't mind the actual bit. I just think he's the pantomime villain, and I think he's a bit of a muppet. I wouldn't say it to his face though. Yeah.
No, not a chance. People talk about obviously people do talk about how big he is and stuff, but I actually don't think people talk about it enough. He's a joke. Like, and there's also like.
Don't they say don't go to the gym as well?
Yeah,
Fuck, it's just so ridiculous.
Just sit at home and fucking inhale steroids.
Like he can't put his arms bound by his sides because his triceps are so big. And he's acting like he doesn't go to the gym.
Not
That's
just
dumb.
is he like the biggest player in the Premier League, he's by far the most muscular footballer I've ever seen in my life. I can't even think who's number 2.
Do you know what?
And he is so clearly number 1. It's absurd how big he is.
If you could see someone like Adama Traore back in teams in like the 80s.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'm not
gonna lie to you. I think
like
players going out on the piss the morning of the game.
Yeah.
Would he be like one of the best players back then? No disrespect, but I also would Adama Traore start for us now as our right wing back?
No, not a chance.
Maybe.
Nah, you're not having him over Mazraoui or Ahmad.
What is going on? Why does he look like that?
I'd start him right wing back.
What is he? He's an absolute freak, isn't he?
He is.
He's crazy. Like, I was thinking, like, I think, like, obviously he could play in terms of physique. You could play like a kind of rugby, maybe like American football. But other than that, there's no sport that can even contain him. No. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no sport in the world where people look like that. He's other than weightlifting, he is completely unbelievable to look at. I actually can't believe it. In terms of my Wally of the week, I don't even know. Actually, you know what I'll go for? Just people who didn't enjoy that we won yesterday.
Yeah.
And I know it was a boring game, but we're awful. And we've won against a decent team away from home. And the fact that we made it boring, for me, is a testament to the squad and the manager. Because the Southampton game, that wasn't boring, but it's because Southampton were beating us up.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we limited Fulham. We were also limited. But against a team that is a good team who can score goals and beat us, I'm happy that we made it a boring game and we came out the victors. I'm really happy with that.
I think that's happened less though. I think from what I've seen, I think fans are actually generally more caring just about the performance now. I've
certainly seen a lot of people going, "There's 90 minutes of my life I'll never get back." And
I think there is a bit of nuance
and all that.
I think there's a bit of nuance though. I think people realise that without additions and players that actually suit this system. Good performances are going to be very few and far between, and it's just about almost surviving with results and maybe scamming a Europa League till the end of the season. That's almost what it feels like.
I'd absolutely love that. Yeah. Right, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Make sure also, like I say this occasionally, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that sort of stuff. If you're just watching, listen to us as well, or you can listen instead, whatever you want to do. And also, if you're listening, check us out on YouTube. So there you go. Thank you very much. Ronaldo, cheers, mate. Thank you for coming on. Jay, of course, as always, thank you at home for watching and listening. This has been the Paddock Podcast. We'll see you in a bit.